Okay, so I'm gonna go over close combat. I really don't have too much to say on it. It's gonna be a pretty quick video. So, close combat is your other option to range combat. Range combat is done can be done anywhere, away from a unit up to its base contact. And yes, range combat can be done at base contact. So don't think if you're in base contact you automatically have to do close combat attacks. And then obviously close combat attacks must be done when two units are in base contact. And your front arc has to be touching the base of the unit you're attacking. Unless you're a quad mech, and then I think you can do close combat attacks 360 degrees around. I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me on that. Let me see. Damn. Yeah. So yeah, if you're a quad mech, you can do 360 degrees around close combat attack. So I guess you kick them in the face with your feet or something. Anyway, so when you make a close combat attack, now you don't. There's a damage value associated with it or a symbol. With range, it's the electric bolt, which is energy, and the bullet or the bomb or whatever symbol that is, which is ballistic. With close combat attack, there's a symbol that's a fist. It's the melee weapon symbol or whatever. You can use that. That means, and that could be either a primary or secondary damage value. So when you make a close combat attack, you can use that damage value to attack for close combat. But if you don't have a melee weapon, that doesn't mean that you can't use close combat. You can still use a close combat, but you're going to use your primary damage value. So if you're in close combat and you want to make a close combat attack, you can use your primary damage value, even if it has a ballistic or a energy attack. Although when you make the close combat attack, it's gonna be considered to have no damage mode. Those symbols are just basically gonna disappear for that one attack if you make close combat. And you can only use your primary damage value if you're not going to be using the fist mode, the melee mode. You can only use your primary damage value for a close combat attack. I hope I'm making myself clear here. Melee weapons, a good thing about melee weapons is that they never gain heat. If you turn a heat dial, you're gonna see, and you have a melee weapon, you're gonna see that you're just gonna see a lot of zeros, and you're not gonna see any colored squares. So that's one good thing about it. So it's less you have to worry about. Also, close combat is really good for getting rid of defense bonuses like evade, decoy, and camouflage. Those only activate if you're being targeted by a range combat attack. So if you find out that your enemy is really hard to hit with range combat, try getting into close combat, and you're going to get rid of a lot of his bonuses. Only mechs and infantry can do close combat. Vehicles can't for obvious reasons. And yeah, so that's it. So here's some tips. I guess one more thing. Close combat, it's resolved the same way as range combat. You roll 3 six-sided dice. You add your attack value to your to the result of the roll. You compare that to the defense. If it's greater than or equal to the defense of the unit you're trying to attack, then the attack succeeds. And then you can apply whatever special equipment you have, or pilot special abilities or whatever. And like I said, your front arc, unless you're a quad mech, your front arc has to be touching the unit. Just like your line of fire has to go cross through your front arc to the unit if you're using a range combat attack. Okay, so here's some tips. Use terrain for cover when advancing towards the unit. If if you're trying to go in for a close combat attack, use a lot of blocking terrain and hindering terrain too, because it provides a +1 defense. But use a lot of terrain, so because you probably won't be able to get all the way up to the unit you're trying to attack. In one go. So use a lot of terrain, hide behind it. Another tip: choose a mech that has a minimum range of 0 for its primary weapon, if you're not using a mech that has any melee attack mode. So that is because if you find out that you kind of do need to make a close combat attack in order to get rid of your enemy's bonuses like evade and decoy, because he's too hard to hit with range combat, and you can only use your primary weapon if you don't have any melee attacks. If you only have ballistics and energies, you can only use your primary weapon for a close combat attack. And if your primary weapon has a minimum range of 3, that means you can't make any close combat attacks, period. So try to find a mech that has a minimum range of 0 for its primary weapon, if you don't have any melee attack modes. I hope I'm making enough sense. Okay, attack units, or try to find units that have large minimum ranges. At least, for mechs that not both of the I'm stuttering a lot. Both of the weapons probably won't have large minimum ranges, but try to find one that at least one of the attacks has a large minimum range. And vehicles and infantry only have, but more often vehicles have only usually have a large minimum range, or sometimes do, whatever. Also, have ranged units in the back providing cover fire for your close combat units. So, it's all getting the unit you're trying to attack is getting kind of tied up. So that way, if your close combat unit gets really maimed, it wasn't for naught, because you have your ranged combat units providing cover fire, so they'll be taking it down too. Because that's really got to suck, running in and then not doing any close combat attack and failing, and then just getting your unit blown to pieces. Oh, and I guess I should add this in, that you can do assault combat with close combat attacks. The only difference is that you may move, for a close combat attack, you may move your full speed value instead of half of your speed value. So I'm not really going to go over area of influence or anything, and this ended up not being as short as I thought it would be. Anyway, so yeah, that's really all. Thanks for listening to my blather. Bye-bye.